It's ugly, it's slow, it's outdated, but it's also an absolute legend. The A-10 Warthog is the aircraft that enemy tanks have nightmares about. So, why has no other country ever bought one? Not even America's closest allies? Let's break it down. Let's get one thing straight. The A-10 Thunderbolt II, aka the Warthog, isn't your average warplane. This thing was designed with one mission in mind: obliterating anything that dares move on the ground. It doesn't care about stealth. It doesn't care about speed. What it does care about is circling above a battlefield like an iron vulture and ripping enemy armor apart with that monstrous GAU-8 Avenger cannon, you know. The one that spits out depleted uranium shells like a fire hose of doom. Yeah, that cannon. The one that's literally bigger than a Volkswagen Beetle and takes up a massive chunk of the aircraft's frame. But here's the deal. Most countries don't want a one-trick pony. They want aircraft that can do multiple jobs like dogfighting, bombing, and reconnaissance. The A-10? It's a sledgehammer in a world where everyone else wants a Swiss Army knife. Now question, why didn't NATO or US allies buy it? You'd think the A-10 would have found a home among America's allies, right? Maybe in NATO, maybe in countries that have seen its combat prowess firsthand. But nope, not a single foreign buyer. Reason one, it's too specialized. Nations investing in air power typically want multi-role aircraft. Something that can take out tanks but also dogfight if needed, or hit a high-speed target before disappearing into the clouds. The A-10? It doesn't do air superiority, it doesn't do long-range bombing, it doesn't do much outside of turning enemy ground forces into smoldering scrap. Take the F-16, for example. The US built tons of them and exported them to over 25 different countries because they can handle air-to-air combat, ground attack, and even electronic warfare. The A-10? It just blows up tanks and convoys. Reason 2. The timing was all wrong. By the time the A-10 was rolling out in the late 1970s, many NATO allies had already committed to other aircraft. European nations like the UK, Germany, and France had their own attack planes, like the Panavia Tornado. Other nations had built up fleets of multi-role fighters like the F-4 Phantom and later the F-16. And let's not forget the Cold War was winding down. No one wanted to dump money into a plane that was basically designed to destroy Soviet tanks when the Soviet Union itself was about to collapse. Reason 3, it's a maintenance nightmare. Owning an A-10 isn't just about flying it, it's about keeping it flying. The aircraft is a rugged, battle-tested warhorse, but it's also old. We're talking about a design that first flew in 1972. Getting spare parts? Not easy. Keeping the GAU-8 Avenger cannon working smoothly? That's expensive and complicated. Training pilots to fly the A-10 the way it's meant to be flown? That's a whole new level of effort. Most countries would rather invest in something newer, with modern avionics, better radar, and easier maintenance. But wait, somebody might want it now? Here's where things get spicy. The US Air Force has been trying to retire the A-10 for years. They say it's outdated, vulnerable in modern warfare, and too costly to maintain. But recently, there was a wild twist. A mystery country reportedly showed interest in acquiring some of these retired Warthogs. Who? That's the big question. Could it be a Middle Eastern country? Maybe a South American nation that wants an edge against insurgents? We don't know yet, but it's the first time in decades that anyone's even considered buying them. And then there's Ukraine. The idea of sending A-10s to Ukraine came up when the war against Russia intensified. On paper, it sounds like a dream, the ultimate tank killer against Russian armored columns. But the reality? Ukraine doesn't want them. Why? Because the A-10 is slow, and Russian air defenses would tear them apart before they ever got the chance to unleash that beautiful brrrr. Let's face it, the A-10 is a relic of a different era. It was built to wipe out Soviet tanks in a massive ground war, but modern battlefields are a whole different beast. Modern missile systems can track and destroy slow-moving aircraft like the A-10 before they ever get close to the action. Even the US Air Force is struggling to justify keeping them. Newer aircraft like the F-35, drones, and even modified versions of the F-16 are taking over the close air support role. So while the A-10 is an absolute legend, it's also a dying breed. And for any country thinking about adopting these beasts, it's a logistical and strategic nightmare. At the end of the day, the A-10 will forever be a fan favorite. It's an icon, a meme, a machine that strikes fear into the hearts of enemy forces. But as cool as it is, it just doesn't fit into the modern world of warfare. No country has bought it. No country will. And when the last Warthog finally flies into retirement, it'll leave behind a legacy of brrrts echoing through history. The legend lives on, but not in foreign hands.